Hello, friends. Happy Friday. Welcome to another Verbal to Visual live stream. Hello to Bruno. Thanks for saying hello in the text chat. Once you're seeing and hearing me clearly enough, drop a hello there. Let us know how you're doing today, maybe where in the world you're coming from. I'm going to draw us out a little intro slide here with the topic for today's live stream, which I'm super excited about, and I hope you are too. Today, we're focusing on drawing difficult verbs. So within sketchnoting, you'll see stick figures often make an appearance. And there's lots of different ways of drawing people, from super simple stick, just like lines, to kind of more fleshed out bodies a little bit. And though it can be a challenge at first to start bringing people into your note taking, it's pretty fun once you get the hang of it. And some of like basic actions of like standing and talking aren't too bad, but today we're going to be focusing on those harder verbs. And I'm going to be taking requests as well. It is, let's go ahead and add the day of the week here just for fun. It is Friday, March 5th. 2021. I appreciate the folks who are joining us live right now, and also the folks catching this replay. I've decided to go ahead and just keep the full replays published as well. At the start of this live streaming experiment here, I wasn't exactly sure what to do with the full 90-minute replays, but I don't think there's a good reason not to just leave the full replays up on the channel as well. Up until like 30 minutes ago, I had kind of had them unlisted, but I think I'm just going to keep the full replays up for folks that, enjoy this and want to grab a sketchbook and kind of participate along with us. Even just by watching the replays for those who aren't able to make it live. So my plan from here is to continue having these, the full live streams available on the channel. And then I will also kind of after the fact go back and clip out certain sections for the shorter, tighter videos like the one that I just published yesterday. Welcome to George. Good to see you here again, George. It'll be fun to kind of like get to see some reoccurring names and faces within the live text chat. George says hello and happy Friday. Bruno also said a big hug from Portugal. That's kind of you, Bruno. We've got Alper saying hello. Shelly Roy. Hi, Shelly. Good to see you here. Joining in from Miami. And Layla joining us as well today. So as a bit of a warm-up, let's start with, I'll start with some of the simpler verbs before we get into the challenging verbs. But since this is mostly, kind of entirely going to be based on viewer request, if there's a verb that you're curious how we might sketchnote in a simplified stick figure format, start throwing some verbs in the live text chat here, and those will be the ones that we'll pull from and that we'll practice. And then maybe by the end of today's live stream, the goal will be to maybe identify some principles for drawing difficult verbs, so that in addition to learning how to draw the specific verbs that we explore today, you'll also maybe walk away with some higher level principles that you can apply no matter what verbs come up in the future. So we'll start by I'll put easy in quotes because I guess the fact that they're easy might be just because I've practiced these a lot, or I've drawn them a lot already. So first, let's just do a person standing. I think more often than not, I start with the person's head. I think throughout today, I'll probably go with a rectangular body because that kind of provides the most flexibility, I think, in showing what the body's doing. And then just lines for legs, ovals for feet, and then same goes with the hands here. So here's someone standing. Next, let's go with a runner. I like drawing this one too. So here we're gonna give the body a little bit of an angle. Runner's going left to right across the screen here, and here get those legs going. I feel like at first with any sort of stick figures, it's figuring out like how to do the elbow bends and like the knee joints that might take some iteration. And then here maybe we'll add some motion lines in for someone running. Let's get a wave in. So this is going to be a variation on the standing person theme, but let's just have one of the hands kind of pointed up, some motion lines for a little bit of waving. Let's go with someone just walking next. So I'll have them maybe leaning ever so slightly forward. And let's kind of have the legs crossed a little bit. And then since they're walking, don't think they need to have like bent arms. Walking's kind of weird. I don't know. The arms when walking is kind of a tricky one, but I think that works. And just add a little bit of motion lines to indicate the direction that person is going. I think I want to pull this all up a little bit. What's another relatively simple verb? I think I can do jump. It's kind of like get that first leg up. The other one kind of extended. And then maybe kind of like running. You know, that might even be what Shelley already suggested there. That might feel a little bit like a hop. I feel like this person is skipping down the street here. Hop / skip. So if any of these ones are new to you, here's a good starting point to get more comfortable drawing people. And I think the reason that it's worth bringing people, simply drawn people into your visual notes is that I think it can make the sketch notes that you take kind of less abstract. Because for the most part, no matter what topic you're exploring, people probably play a role somewhere in it. And kind of figuring out what role those people play, like the type of actions that are going on with whatever it is that you're sketchnoting. I think that adds something really dynamic to your notes, allows you to see where like you fit in within the topics, but also if you're sharing your sketch notes or you're doing it in a presentation format, in a group collaborative format, other people can see themselves in it. And you know, if you're working on a team and you're making something for other people, it's not necessarily going to be seeing yourself in the sketch notes. It's about seeing your potential customers or the people that you're doing your work for. So those are kind of the reasons why you might want to include people within your sketch notes. With that, let's hop into, I feel like I want to add. This needs a little color. I think I just want to underline our verbs here. Yeah, that works. And also, just as a heads up today, my power is scheduled to be turned off. The power in our entire house. They're replacing a power pole in our neighborhood. So it's possible that at any point, like, this live stream will just cut off. So if that happens, now you'll know why. Awesome. Okay, we've got some good ones. Lots of suggestions coming in from George here. I appreciate it. Some more from Shelly. Keep the verb suggestions coming through the live text chat, and we'll get as many as we can. Whoa. Okay. So lots of figures sitting and doing things. Okay, broken out. Thanks for breaking those out into different text chats. I appreciate that, George. Figure sitting with crossed arms. All right. Yeah. Let's start there. And I think I'll kind of like give myself a full frame for each of these just to practice them a bunch and to show, you know, it's probably going to take a handful of times attempting it to even first get it in a, show it in a way that like looks right or looks the way you want it to. So figure sitting with crossed arms. Let's give ourselves a ground line. Let's make the ground line gray so it's kind of in the background. And then I'll kind of make it like maybe a horizon line. I guess we'll see. I might do some erasing. So figure sitting, if they're sitting up, their rectangular body is still going to be like that. I will adjust the size of my eraser here. And then if they're sitting, I'm going to assume they have crossed arms and crossed legs. Let's go with that. And I literally am like picturing myself here. So if they're sitting cross-legged, this knee's going to be out like that, that foot like that, and maybe the foot directed that way. So there are some crossed legs. And then literally crossed arms sounds harder. I'm trying to like see myself in the little window there and picture that. And what you're seeing here, what's tricky, the verbs that are hardest is when there's any sort of overlap of a limb with a body or one limb with another limb. So that doesn't look that great. Let's try again. Cross legs. See, instead of, I was doing like that. Wonder if it's going to be helpful. It's not really how. I wonder if it helps to like try to do the hands all the way on the other side of the arm, but that doesn't quite work either, I don't think. We'll leave that one up there for reference. Looks kind of funny. That one's kind of like someone like hugging themselves almost. It's almost like when your arms are crossed, I guess you can kind of see one but not the other. So far of these three, I think I like the first one best. None of them are that good though. What if it's like... Part of me thinks like the curve needs to be up a little bit for that one. Maybe not. Of these, I like it. That one's not bad. That last one there. And it's interesting, like with the human body, like how much little nuance there is depending on like even just the angle of like the hand or the foot, the curve of the arm or the leg. I think that last one kind of works. Or at least we're going in the right direction with it, I think. kind of drawn the person a little bit bigger now, just to see if having some more body space is kind of helpful. Whoops, let me get rid of that horizon line there. Line weight's all over the place right now, too. Yeah, getting there. These all look pretty rough. Well, we might have to abandon this one and come back to another. Hello, Cynthia. Catching live from Japan. Good to see you. Thanks for the kind words also from Tung. Yeah, let's stop there for now. We'll continue trying some other ones. If we find a good way to do crossed arms, maybe we'll revisit and swing back to this one. I like George saying it's Challenge Friday. Maybe that'll be a recurring theme for our Friday live streams here. Oops. Let me gonna hop to Shelley's, because it's kind of similar to the one we just did a little bit, and then I'll swing back to some ones that George recommended. Let's draw a person meditating. I'm going to go ahead and use a horizon line again, because I feel like that gives a little bit of perspective that's helpful. And I think it's actually real similar to what we were just doing. Oops, erase enough of that line, but not too much. We've got the cross legs. And then more often than not, you could have the hands resting on the knees. Sometimes the hands just together. I think there's a few variations here. So one with just the hands resting on the knees. And then kind of to show that the person is meditating, I think I want to just show that the eyes are closed. And then maybe it's kind of a straight mouth. Yeah, I think that could work. I think another variation on that, try the body a little thinner this time. Stick with the crossed legs. But then maybe just like kind of hands together in the lap. but not too elbowy. I feel like that. Has some meditative qualities to it, and maybe give it a little bit of a peaceful smile. I'm curious in the text chat if you prefer A or B for meditation. Let's do a few more. There's another thing I want to add to this third one here. And we're kind of starting to see the different ways in which you can get across different actions. One is just with the shape of the body and the limbs itself. I'm going to go with that first one. Hands on the knees. I think I'm going to go with the second base. I think I want a slightly bigger head. Eyes closed. A little bit of a smile. But then, if I give myself a little bit of space here and here, this person is probably paying attention to their thoughts, but likely noticing what's there, but then letting that thing go. So in addition to like the body itself, we've also got a facial expression to add some nuance. And then we've got some things going around the body, things going on around the body. In this case, a thought bubble and this arrow representing kind of what one aspect of meditation, which is acknowledging what's there, but then kind of letting it pass. I like those. Some good options to work with, I think. From the voting so far, we had one vote for B, one vote for A, and you can kind of choose whichever feels like a better fit for you, which is nice. Cool, so I think that feels pretty good for meditating. Ooh, except Shelley came in with a great suggestion right before I was about to move on, putting a peace symbol in the thought bubble. Yeah, let's do one more version of meditation, and then we'll hop on to a new verb. Cross legs. Maybe we'll go back to the arms together, hands together rather. Kind of a peaceful face. Thought bubble. And inside that thought bubble is the peace symbol. Yeah, I can get behind those. Give ourselves a little bit of a nice rectangular space. Got some good options there for drawing a person meditating. Yeah, it's interesting comparing the first two to the second two. I think the things that we added to the second two make it even more clear what's going on if there wasn't really the context. But if people had, I feel like if people had to guess what the first person, especially maybe the first two, I feel like the majority of people would guess meditating. Maybe that's a way to test your the way that you draw people. Go ask someone who doesn't know what you're doing. It's like, and ask, what is this person doing? All right, let's see what we want to do next. Here's a good one from George. Two figures sitting on either side of a desk. Keep the verb requests coming, and it could be kind of, we've seen a couple of different variations of that, like George kind of describing in a little bit more detail, like the specific things that people are doing or how they're oriented, or just like the verb, any single verb. Keep those coming. Two figures at either side of a desk. I think like kind of the specificity of a situation like this is helpful too, because something like this can kind of be a stand-in for all sorts of different things that you might sketch note. Whether it's like a work meeting, a coffee shop meetup, dinner at home, co-working. Like this kind of fits into all of those. And for this one, I think I like two. I'm gonna take desk and kind of just go with table. Let's give let's see here, hold on. Let's give the table some dimensionality. I like to go with something simple like that. Kind of a top, might be a little bit of a top-heavy table. I found that it's kind of helpful after you've got the table down. Let's go ahead and give ourselves a floor line. Do this a few different times here. Got our floor there. After the table, I found it helpful to draw the chairs next. One chair. Chair on the opposite side. And then let's put some people in those chairs. Kind of start with the person's head. Still kind of do like a curved rectangle for the body. And then feet down like this. And maybe they've got their elbow on and they're chatting or saying something. Go with a similar approach. This person, or let's say maybe this person's kind of leaning back in their chair. I might have made the backs of the chair a little too big. but proportions don't have to be perfect here. Maybe this person's kind of sitting back and thinking something. Maybe I think we drew it a little too small to actually have a mug in their hand or something like that, but you can add objects to the table if you want to give a sense for what's going on there. So maybe these folks are catching up over coffee. Let's do that once more and maybe try to add a little bit of variation. Start with the table. Drawing a table in this way kind of, gives yourself space underneath the table for things like a chair and feet. And then maybe this time, let's say, maybe they're working on something. They've got a computer in front of them. Maybe this person is saying something. I don't know. Maybe they're doing a website review or something. Once again, really long rectangular bodies here. Maybe he's got his hands on the table this time. And he's thinking about something. So, the base, the core of these two different sketches is the same, with like the table and the chair and the people generally, but you can add in those different details depending on the specific situation that you're depicting. Let's go back to another, just kind of a straight verb here. From Bruno, we've got jumping. For jumping, I think it will once again be helpful to have a ground line. And we already saw how to do hopping, so we know the person is going to be off the air. Okay, I'm kind of cheating a little bit here because this is one that came to mind that I have drawn before, but here's someone drawing and jumping and clicking their heels together. And excitedly got their hands in the air too. Fully off the ground. That one's kind of fun. I think another way you might draw jumping kind of like running. Just with some elevation. And maybe they've got their hands up in the airs too. This feels fun, so I feel like everyone should be smiling. And then, again, kind of just playing around with what the legs might be doing. It's almost like is that a weird way to jump? Jumping and kind of high knees at the same time. Let's add some, add a level of detail. Let's try to show someone jumping over something else. Bring our verb along with us here. Extend our ground line a little bit. Let's put a barrier in place. Just a little. Fence or a short little wall or something. And a person coming along. Getting that first. It almost needs to be a little sharper. It's like hopping over that wall. It's not bad, a little clunky. I think it communicates what's going on. Here, got a handful of different ways to show jumping. All a little bit weird. I still think I like the first one best, the person kind of clicking their heels together. But maybe that last one, showing someone actually jumping over something else. Let's go ahead and center that title there. Yeah, 4 different ways of showing someone jumping. Keep the verbs coming. I'm going to throw one in that I was thinking about earlier today. Cooking. This is one that I feel like necessitates having the person that you're drawing interacting with other objects. And again, that's kind of one of the challenges when drawing certain verbs is like how to depict those interactions. When you're first working on your sketchnoting skills and you're building up your visual vocabulary, you're maybe able to draw individual objects such as some sort of like a pan or stove, and there can be food cooking, food going there, and maybe you can also draw didn't quite get that first line where I wanted. maybe something like a spatula. So we've got individual images, individual icons that might represent something like cooking, but it is more interesting to show a person doing it. So let's try that. Let's give ourselves a cooking workspace. So we've got maybe a counter. Let's just start with that. Like we've got those objects. Let's draw. Oops, sorry about that. Pan on the stove. Handles coming out like that. There's food there. Here's our person. Both feet are kind of pointed in the direction that they're facing. Maybe one hand on the stove, one hand, some sort of utensil. You can assume that it's a spatula or something working with whatever is going on in there. And I suppose what we could do as well, if we wanted to add some details to the surface that they're working on, even though like it's interesting to think about perspective, because this is kind of like a side view of what's going on, but you could still kind of play around with the angles a little bit and pretend that you're looking partially straight on, so that, you know, maybe there are some knobs here. Most of which are maybe got the one turned on. Maybe it's an oven too. So I think even if you're kind of like blending perspectives a little bit, I think that can work. So there's someone working on the stove. Let's try this again, but maybe the next one, the person is doing some prep, maybe chopping up some vegetables. Let's try that as the next way of depicting cooking. So maybe there's, what should our person be slicing up? Maybe some onions. It's kind of anything round. Maybe there are a few in the background to be chopped next, and then again going from like, okay, let's see if we can draw this utensil just as an individual icon, and then we'll kind of bring it into our scene. I feel like with a knife, kind of got the blade, and then the handle. Maybe the handle's got some grip to it. So if we're going with that, maybe let's bring our person in. Similar starting point for drawing the person. Have the feet kind of pointed in. maybe for this one, let's try thinking of it like as the side angle. Maybe the knife is just slicing into the onion. So might be kind of hard to get the effect that I'm going for. Something like that. Kind of goofy angles here. Plus, you wouldn't really be kind of awkward way of chopping an onion, but it gets the point across, I think. I think we want this hand maybe coming over from here. That's a little bit better. Maybe this other hand might not be worth trying to draw the second hand here, but one hand kind of holding the onion in place safely, the other doing some chopping. I feel like that works all right. Gonna go ahead and add a little feel like I want a ground line to wrap this one up, maybe below this person. We can just show some drawers and maybe a kind of cabinet door. Yeah, I feel like those little details are helpful too. Even with the first one, just seeing like, okay, that's a stovetop and there's an oven there. The second one, it's just kind of a normal countertop with drawers. Little details like that help to, I think, really kind of nail in what's going on. I think I want to bring our folks here a little closer together. Bring the ground line back in a little bit. Bring this guy over. Give us kind of a handy reference. Final little image there. A couple of different ways of showing someone who is cooking. Hello to Himanshu from India. Nice, got a little Bob Ross comparison. I'll take that. Yeah, it kind of is. It's interesting to like draw along with someone, like, you know, imagining someone else drawing on the other side of this, and kind of not worrying too much about pace as well. I kind of like thinking of this live streaming thing too, like the current version of it. Like, we're doing this experiment throughout March, going live here every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time, going to 11:30 a.m. So like 90-minute, a little bit where my mind has gone, kind of throughout the month of March. But then after I think I like the idea of continuing to go live at that point, probably like once or twice a week, but that kind of making it like a show, turning it into a little bit of a show. It's kind of a helpful way to think about it. Maybe even like bringing on guests sometimes too, like interviewing someone and like sketching out the interview. I think there's a lot of fun directions to take it, thinking about it in the way that you would think about like a television program, something like a Bob Ross episode. So that's a helpful reference point for kind of where we might go with these live streams. From a specific verb like cooking, let's go to a specific action that George brought in. Again, if verbs are coming to mind for you, feel free to throw some challenging verbs into the text chat that we'll try to draw out. George threw in to the text figure, giving a TED Talk. And though this is kind of it's got the specificity of a TED Talk here, I think it will apply to anyone giving a presentation in a large room in front of a bunch of other people. So, here we get to think a little bit about setting, right? Because depending on what the verb is, sometimes having something to represent the setting can be really helpful. In that last example, we saw like the stove or the kitchen cabinet that kind of represented the setting. Here we will have a stage and an audience. So let's kind of start there. And I picture, we'll give ourselves a few opportunities to draw this one, but I kind of picture like a circular stage. And let's have a person more or less in the middle of that stage. Maybe making some sort of a hand gesture, hand motion. Definitely talking. There's probably some sort of a slide in the background. I don't think we need to get too specific with, give myself a little bit more space to work with here. Don't think we need to get too specific about what's in the background, adding too many details here. But I think there is something, I think this is true for TED Talks. I feel like there's often like a circle. Maybe it's like a red circle that might have like the TED logo on it. I picture these folks standing kind of on a specific thing. So I'm using the fill tool within concepts that I've got in kind of like highlighter mode. So like, maybe they're in the center of the stage, or that could even just represent like the spotlight that's on that person. But then we can also show, whoops, switch back to the right tool. Maybe I'm going to do this I could do this in black, but maybe if you want to emphasize the person as opposed to the audience, you can have the audience in a little bit lighter of a color. Maybe just to show a few different rows to give a sense for the size of the audience. That more or less works, but so this here could represent anyone giving a talk or a presentation. If you wanted to specify that it's specifically at the TED conference, then I think I'll keep the dark gray. You could have just the big bold TED letters. Kind of on the side of the stage. Somewhat sloppily drawn. Yeah, that's cool. Agata mentioned red dot on the stage. Let's why not add some color? Again, I'm using Concepts here, which has the nice editability to bring in some different colors. So maybe something like that. Somewhat of a faded red, but I think that works. I think I like that. I want to try one other way of drawing this. Kind of similar. I kind of want a different shape to the room and the space where the person is presenting. I feel like I've seen sometimes it's not just like one big platform. It's like the person presenting. It's kind of like a smaller. It's a smaller space. So some of this will remain the same. This person is talking. This time, let's go ahead and throw a presentation screen kind of behind the person. And maybe, I don't know, maybe at some point they have like a video going. Let's bring our, I'm going to change the color after. Oh, let's change it now. Where'd that red go? Probably not going to be the exact same red. Red dot. This time, the audience is kind of all around. I feel like I've seen this format for some of the talks. Just kind of like more of a circular room or smaller stage, and people are kind of surrounding the presenter. Probably don't need to draw this many people around, but why not? So there we go. A few different ways of drawing a person giving a TED Talk. Easily adaptable for anyone giving any sort of a presentation. Agata mentions, I can be your guest. There we go. Got a potential person to reach out to if I kind of choose to bring some guests onto this show. Agata mentions, I do live drawing videos in Polish for 5 years now. I'd be honored to talk with you about sketchnoting in my wild east of the world. Sounds cool. Agata, if you have a link to your work, throw it in the text chat. If you're able to share links, I'm not sure what YouTube does with that in a live text chat, or if you've got stuff on your YouTube channel, I'll follow those breadcrumbs to try to see what you're up to. Let's try to find another verb or two. I'll go. Actually, I think we might be able to get a couple in at once. Shelley mentioned teaching, and George mentioned someone giving a presentation at the whiteboard. And I think those can kind of go well together. So this is another situation where it's helpful to think about the setting, imagining some sort of a classroom environment, and kind of the specific act of teaching can look all in all sorts of different ways, but I like starting with maybe like a big board. This could be a whiteboard, could be a chalkboard. And maybe the teacher is here off to the side. Using a pointer. This kind of feels outdated to have, like, I don't know, a ruler or a pointer or something, but just have something referencing whatever it is up on the board. So one person up there doing something, sharing ideas, but then throughout the rest of the room, you can throw in some tables. And have some students around those tables. Let's go with three students per table. Kind of change up the specific location. This is very much kind of a direct instruction model of teaching and education where, you know, it's kind of the stereotypical teacher in the front of the room, kids sitting in the classroom paying attention, which there's still, you know, a time and a place for this, of course. It might be fun, though, to explore what it might look like to show teaching in a little bit in a way that has the students more active. So let's try that, so that maybe the teacher is leading students through an activity, but the students themselves are being active. So for that, let's try bring this along with us for some reference there. I think I want to have like multiple boards, like multiple workspaces. And trying to get, I might be doing too much here with some like perspective. Yeah, that sounds too hard. I don't want to get too I don't want to get too 3D with it. But maybe we can picture a few different workspaces. And maybe we have the teacher here again teacher's given some directions, maybe providing some structure to the activity. But let's also have the students up doing things. Let me make sure this is kind of separate enough from the other scene that we were drawing there. Can rearrange this a little bit later on. And I guess we'll make the assumption that the teacher is an adult, the students are children, so we can draw the kids here a little bit smaller. Maybe they're doing like a group activity. This is getting pretty sloppy pretty quickly here. But they're doing some things, they're being active. Yeah, little abstract, little vague here, but maybe some combination, some merger of these two distinct ways of showing teaching. And this kind of has me thinking back to our cooking example, because I think that to get away from like an abstract room, this one is clearly like, okay, there's a person in the front of the room presenting something. There are other people there paying attention. This one, it's clear that there's someone in the center maybe presenting and talking, but there are groups around them. There's nothing that really signifies like what subject that is, what type of classroom environment. So I'm thinking like, oh, if we wanted to show a chemistry classroom, we could include some objects specific to chemistry. Same goes for like biology or language arts. Throw some books in there. So I think that's kind of something to think about when drawing a fairly generalized or potentially abstract term like teaching, because most often as these verbs come up that you're going to want to sketchnote, there's going to be like some specific context to them. So what specifically is the teacher teaching, and what visuals can you bring in to represent that specific subject? I think that's where I'd go next with something like this. But maybe not a bad starting point here. Thanks for hanging out early in the morning, Cynthia. 4 a.m. Go get some sleep. Go take a nap. All right. Dogan mentioned liberalize as a verb. I'm not familiar with that verb. I do see a challenging one, a really challenging one from music music power spot. That's the username, and that verb is imitating. That sounds like a great one to attempt, maybe as the final verb for today. So we're definitely going to need two people. There's got to be the person doing the thing and then the other person imitating that first person. And maybe what the first person is doing. Maybe they're making some explanation or being very animated. Gesturing in some way. And then the other person over here. I don't know why I need to get the head size so similar. They're doing something similar. I mean, it's really hard to get, like, I mean, you could just draw the same stick figure side by side, but I don't know how. Maybe to show that there's a little bit of like emotion. Like the first person's already there. The second person is like getting into that same position, but maybe like just before that. That's a really hard one. Open to suggestions for how to maybe get across the specific verb of imitating. I could see with like, I guess it kind of also depends on like the intent behind imitating. Here, this is more like one person mirroring someone else in a real situation. I don't know why necessarily you would want to do that. Like another version of imitating is I guess kind of similar to drawing or watching like a Bob Ross episode. You are imitating the way that person is doing their craft. I don't know if imitating is quite the right word for that either, but that thought of, oh, I can do that, or I will do that in the same way. I'm gonna bring in a. I'm gonna try let's try a sports analogy. Someone let's have one person over here. This is kind of the first person doing the thing. That thing in this case being shooting a basketball. Maybe there's a second person over here who's also doing that same thing. And maybe I'll just add like a thought bubble to to this one, and at the risk of being too specific to a generation, someone imitating Michael Jordan. And I feel like one way of, if you wanted to get specific to that situation, you could have the person on the right, like being in a Bulls jersey wearing number 23. The person on the left just, I don't know, in a tank top or something. So again, I guess what that attempt was to, we'll go ahead and add some of that in here. At the risk of cramming too much in, but getting to something specific, adding enough specificity through a thought bubble, through specific objects. I think that can be a way to get at verbs that feel particularly abstract. Alicia brings in a good point in the text chat. I like the little person looking up, imitating an older person or a pro. Loose-fitting, oversized jersey on the child, on the imitator. Yeah. I guess another way to even maybe get at that is instead of like, I'll go ahead and try this. This may be the last sketch here. Going kind of in a similar direction as what I was doing here, but instead of kind of actively showing the person that is being imitated, maybe instead we use kind of the thought bubble again. It's within the thought bubble that Michael Jordan lives, for example. So the person is just imagining the person they're imitating. Yeah, so I think it's helpful in this case to have something that like distinguishes between the person doing the imitating and the person that person is imitating. To get confusing with language a little bit. And you could even have like, it could be a TV. Maybe the person is like watching Michael Jordan on some sort of a screen, referencing back and forth. But like having that sort of separation, I feel like is a little bit clearer than, something just like that. So a little bit of exploration there to get us to show a few different ways of getting across something like imitating. We'll play around with the spacing a little bit maybe to get that into a single frame, but some ideas to work with. So as we start to kind of wrap it up for today's live stream, we'll do a little bit of reviewing here of the verbs that we explored and the different kind of dynamics and elements that came up. We stuck with the more or less similar way of drawing a person with the rectangular body, lines for arms and legs, circles or ovals for head, hands, and feet, playing around with the different orientations, but I think most helpfully adding objects around that person, adding a thought bubble. Did that for imitating. Tried to depict a specific setting for teaching, multiple people, kind of a board at the front of the room, giving a TED Talk. Had our primary person there, kind of with their full body, using black strokes, and then much more abstract, simpler drawn people, audience in gray, with some sort of a stage. Person is clearly speaking. We use the red dot and the letter TED to signify that it's someone giving a TED Talk. Cooking was fun. This is probably the one where we got to like the highest level of detail, I think, within a single sketch, which was pretty fun. Clearly showing a setting by either having the stove or the kind of kitchen counter there. The person drawn here is pretty similar in each case, but different things that they're doing with their hands based on kind of some simplified objects that might already be within your visual vocabulary. And here it's just about like how to combine them. Handful of different ways to show someone jumping, all very happily. Two figures on either side of a desk, maybe chatting over coffee, maybe talking about a website or some presentation or something like that. Meditating. Here's where, again, kind of facial expressions and thought bubbles were really helpful. Something going on inside that thought bubble. A few different colors too. I feel like having the thing that's going on inside the thought bubble be in gray is just a little bit helpful. Same with the horizon line in the background. Having those be a different color than the person, I think, can be helpful. And the one that we never really did really well at this point, if I had tried to do this many times on my own and I still didn't like how it turned out, that's when I would turn to a Google image search, because I know that someone has already figured out how to show someone sitting with crossed arms better than I have. So not being afraid to search for a reference if my own attempts at that specific action go awry. I think that's it. We started today with some basics, relatively basics. And with that, I think we'll kind of wrap it up for today. I appreciate those who participated in the text chat, the ones that shared those suggestions there and gave some tips and ideas along the way. I hope that you've done some drawing alongside me and maybe built out your people drawing skills and can bring some of the specific verbs that we explored today into a future sketchnoting session, or even just the general practice of it, giving yourself the freedom to if you're using pen and paper, have some scratch paper on the side to figure it out a little bit before you add a complicated verb to the sketch note itself. So it was a good one. It was fun to have this type of focus on the live stream too, and then just have a bunch of examples, kind of variations on a theme, I guess. I imagine we'll do something like this in the future, but kind of focusing on a different specific sketchnoting skill. So do stay tuned next week. Throughout the month of March, we'll be doing these live streams every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for all the kind words in the live text chat, and hope to see you again in a future one. Thanks all. Have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend too. See you next week.